Hello, welcome to my channel Conscious Growing. I'm Matthias. Welcome to a new video. So this one's will be about the topic or the question, is my anxiety keeping me away from living my life? And I think this is a very huge one. You know, as some of you might know from the earlier videos, my personal background were two corona infections, and then I was kind of overwhelmed with tons of symptoms. I think at my worst there were maybe 30 different symptoms I counted and wrote down. And with time, many of them vanished. I don't even remember them anymore. And the better I got within the month, and the more resilience came back, and the more trust in healing and in my body and my own capacities, and also the background knowledge that it's just a nervous system issue. There's nothing structurally wrong with my body. I really developed lots of confidence and more strength through the months and weeks. But what I observed recently is that the more the symptoms vanished and the less physical symptoms I have, the more anxiety and fear came up. And that was confusing me, because from the rational standpoint, you think, oh, I should get better. I should have more trust in this whole thing and get me right. On one hand, the symptoms left me, but I was kind of confused. Why do I have this anxiety in me and this fear in me? And I think I have some answers to that, and I want to share them with you today. Because fear and anxiety is a protection mechanism, for sure. We all know that. So there is something that wants to protect us. And if you believe in TMS, mind-body syndrome, then you already know, or you already collected this knowledge that there's really nothing wrong with you. But I think that it is worth to have a look back and look why the fear or the anxiety is still there. And then really ask yourself how to deal with it, how to go along with it. And what I mean here is not grabbing in the past. I think it's not necessary. But it could be enough just to have a little reflection on what happened shortly before you developed these conditions. Yeah, in most cases it was a virus maybe, but even if it's chronic pain, it's the same thing. From my standpoint, it is like that at this point you were overwhelmed from life in some kind of way. Something was too much for you. Something happened that you couldn't bear anymore. And that might be a loss of a loved one. It could be things like you lost your job, or you were in a job that caused lots of stress and you felt overwhelmed. It was too much for you. And but you went on and went on, and then maybe all of a sudden you got a virus, to stay with this example, and then you came under your personal threshold, and you kept stuck. Your body was sick and ill and fearful and so on. And in my personal story, I can share that it was definitely the work. Um, as you might know, I'm teaching Alexander technique, which is a body-mind work, and I did it for 20 years with lots of passion, with lots of joy also, and I could see that people developed in their process, and I developed, and we developed together, and we're growing together. But on another level, I was too ambitious. I wanted probably to be the best teacher in the world, and I wasn't very good to set my boundaries, and wasn't so good to take rest for myself and so on. So I see I have some ideas about it, why it all happened to me. Um, I'm not surprised anymore. And this came up in the very first weeks already. But then in the meantime, I was so much engaged to fix myself, to get rid of the symptoms, to do this inner work, to start to build up new beliefs in me, and so on and so on and so on. And now I came back to a point where I almost feel recovered and healthy, and now fear comes, and now anxiety comes. And this anxiety and fear, of course, creates specific symptoms, like heart palpitations, or you start to sweat when adrenaline rushes come. And I don't want to name them all, just to give a short idea. We all know what happens, or everybody has his specific symptoms when there is anxiety or fear. But to come back to the point, I think that it is really important to have a look what happened shortly before your condition started, because I think it's really important to face it and really be honest to yourself and ask yourself, what's standing in the way to fully recover? Why is fear still there? Is it my mindset? Is it my negative thoughts? Is it still this rumination now, where most of the symptoms have gone? There is, of course, or easily can be the rumination about why do I have still these anxiety symptoms? What's wrong with me? And then you can easily caught up again in rumination and think there's something wrong with you. And I think there's nothing wrong with you. And I would say, and I mentioned this in the earlier videos, is on some point you should face your fears. You should sit with your fear. You should allow your fear. You should allow the symptoms. You should accept them and really be with them. But then, on the other hand, you have to take action every day. Make some decisions. What's the next decision for this day? What is good for me? What do I want to do away from having been in this fixing mode for so long? Or finding solutions just for the symptoms themselves, or even now, maybe in this last part of the journey, to kind of trying to deal with the anxiety itself. And there we have to be careful not to get stuck in this, to come back to this fixing mode, maybe to start ask Mr. Google again, what could this symptom mean, and so on. So what I mentioned earlier, honesty is important. You have to be honest. Okay, I have fears. Maybe it's the fears of the future. The fear of I don't have my symptoms anymore. So what to do? I've been in this for so long. And now where this is leaving me, fear comes. The good old familiar sensations and friends, they have left. There's just this fear. The fear of making this last step out of your illness, out of your period of dealing with symptoms. And in other words, to face life again. And this can be very, very scary. And I think it's really important to ask yourself the question, what do I want? How does my ideal life look like? Do I want to make this job I did before it all happened? Do I want to do it in the same way? Was it good for me? What caused stress? Maybe the stress I had before, I don't want to go back and end up in the same stress, and maybe the conditions come back. Nobody wants this. But then, let's say, for example, you decide or you have this intuition to see, I don't want to go back. What does it mean? It means there is this great big emptiness, and now it's on us to create a presence and the future. So it needs some courage. Because if you don't want to go back to what you had before, because you realized that this was the reason it made you sick, there is fear, of course. Of course. And so therefore, I think it's really important to do two things. The first thing is to really be really present with yourself each and every day, and be present and allow the fear to be there. Don't fight it. It wants to protect you. And maybe there's a reason. Maybe it wants to protect you to go back. I stay in this example to protect you to go back to your old job. Because there you develop unhealthy patterns. So it's a good protection. So now your or our creativity is asked. So we have to go inside and see, what do I really want? How could my future look like? What do I really want? What are my talents? What are the things I'm good in? What are the... How could I do something more meaningful? Or maybe if I decide to go back, what can I change to not end up in the same patterns? I think these are very important questions, because I think we're making a transition. We developed symptoms at a certain point, then this gap was there, however the conditions take you out of your personal life, and there is your future, and you want to connect these two ends again in a new way, and you want to develop more healthy and more meaningful patterns. And therefore you have to make some effort to look at it, even if it creates more fear in the beginning. But we are the creators of our own lives. And if we stop to do these creations, then we get stuck. And then it's no wonder that fear and anxiety comes up. Because there is this gap. And there's no one else who can fill this gap other than you, other than us. And I think this is the most important and probably the last stage of recovery. So in other words, you could say fear is your friend. Fear is giving you hints of, hey, look, what's scared you? Why are you scared? What are your worries about the future? And then, of course, you really have to see where your subconscious is making you some fearful offers, or where the adult or the higher self in you is seeing the situation. And this one has to take over. And this one has to say, okay, I look back, I take this look back, and I'm honest to myself. This is a fear. I don't want to be back in this company. I get it. Yeah. And then if you see this, either you create new solutions, new possibilities, and going back to the old field, or you create your new future in little steps. It can start with thoughts about the future. You imagine the you imagine the moments and how you want to experience them. You create your future in the brightest colors. And also to see that it's not only you, it's not only some thought of an ego trip, their own recovery. it's also remind that you get healthy not only for yourself. When you go through this and when you come out on the other side, you will be able to help others, to support others, to guide others with your story. Because there are millions and millions out there struggling with the same things. And it's really very much needed in this world that people have clarity, that people conquered their fears. And on a daily basis, I also would say, coming back to this fear in the body, it's what I really now was explaining and trying to share in detail over and over again. But then there can also be this acting on a daily basis. And this means, like, when you feel stuck, when you feel anxiety, when you have the feeling I can't do this and that, I'm too scared to go out right now, then go out. When you feel, oh, I can't go to the grocery right now, go to the grocery. And challenge yourself a little bit. Don't overwhelm yourself. Yeah, don't think you have to manage it all in one day, but continuously don't allow the fear to take over. It's there, accept it. Don't try to ignore it, it won't be possible. Panic or anxiety comes up, adrenaline is in the body, but it shouldn't hold you totally back from going back to your life. And then this daily stuff can be like a bridge back to life. But I think this first part of this video is really important, really to see why you have fear, why you're stuck, and what can you do to fill this gap and create your future. And I think this has to happen in some kind of way. And I don't mean it in the sense of the big changes have to come and you have to do many things to get better and get out of it. But it's just sometimes these little tiny changes that lead to the change in the long run and in the how do you say, on the whole picture. This will influence the whole picture, these little steps. And we have to interact with these fears and these symptoms, because I think really this is the seemingly last obstacle on a recovery journey. And yeah, with this kind of attitude, there will be probably ways to learn more to be with them, with the anxiety, not try to fight it, be with it, but also show your brain that you have the power to go and create your new life in little steps, and also with a vision in you about the future of your life. Okay, this is these are my reflections of today, and I hope some of you might find it helpful. And yeah, have a look at it and don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared. It's just calling you to to come to the other side somehow, and don't be ruled by your fears anymore. So hope you have a wonderful day, and yeah, see you soon. Bye bye.